All right, everyone. Welcome to the bi-weekly meeting of the awarded teams of Deep Funding Round 1. We have a number of people here, and some of them would love to give a short presentation on what they're doing and where they're at. And I'd like to start with Ken from Carbix. Ken, please.
Hello, and thank you for having us. Today, I'd like to present a video of the virtual worlds that we're creating as part of our project, which is to deliver education through avatars, not only with detail and information and technical detail, but also with nuance and with emotion. So that begins with the environment. And with Carbix, we have an initial 3 environments ready. Geothermal, sort of placed in Iceland. The original float glass site, which is more south of France, and a new cement factory site, which is set in the Alps, but they're kind of like an imaginary Alps. They could be Alps anywhere. They're very special Alps. For the next milestone, we're going to delve deeply into how we're going to manage the adaptive learning aspect, but we'll also be adding a 4th environment called Hot Rocks, and it's going to be oceanside, so it should look really terrific. So as part of our presentation, I can share with you some videos we've made of the first 3 environments. So this is the geothermal environment. It's set in the caldera of an extinct volcano. So the premise with this is that there's a repository of snowmelt on the site that will provide all of the water that's needed for this. I think they're aiming for carbon neutral. Quincy is the person to ask for the technical details on the site itself. And my job was to make it look 3-dimensional. So here for the sites, we've moved from the universal rendering pipeline in Unity, which is meant for mobile devices and average computers, to HDRP. And I think that's a little bit to compete with Unreal and their fantastic atmospherics. So with the high definition render pipeline in Unity, we're able to take advantage of many of the same ideas with light modeling that's intended to follow realistic light in the world, and greater facility for reflections, real-time radiosity, and other means. It also performs subsurface scattering much more accurately. So if we are dealing with vegetation, or in our case, especially skin, avatar skin and hair, there'll be improvements in those looks as well. So this will be from the viewpoint primarily of the student, taking a look around. We've fashioned some terrain. We've worked on a rudimentary pop-up for assistance, no matter where you are on the site. And this is a real-time render of Anya's behavior. So it adds hopefully another dimension. And we have a basic switchable between 3rd person and 1st person. And the reason it's spinning around so much is because I'm looking for the camera setting on the screen. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll notice what's called a scrubber. And this is an add-on to any existing geothermal site, where it'll purify the emissions, which are primarily, if I understand properly, well, I best not say because I'll get it wrong, but it's something along the lines of sulfuric oxide, carbon dioxide, and so on. So on the right, we have an autonomous semi-vehicle, electrical powered. Then in front of us, in the distance, you can see Anya standing in front of the X2, which is the innovative carbon capture technology that Carbix is developing.
Thank you for traveling all this way to see our X2 carbon capture device. We're in luck.
These are rudimentary animations that we've since replaced with more naturalistic behavior. I'm showing you apparently an older video.
Or even for off-site production of synthetic materials made with CO2 emissions. The materials produced in the reactor
now, the challenge with this information
and are designed for use in the global building industry.
Now, the challenge with this information is that it gets extremely detailed in terms of the chemistry, in terms of the use of the machine, and how it transforms atmospheric carbon capture into buildable materials. And what we'll be doing with the lessons is breaking that down into bite-sized chunks of information that we can test, and also taking advantage of the virtual world in that we can show chemical processes. We can show flow of slurry or liquids through the machine as well. So here right away, we started adding vegetation. We've started adding roads and buildings that are based on Mapbox coverage maps of the real site in the south of France. And these models still need some work in terms of reflection in materials and optimization, especially of the geometry. But already we can see an improvement in how light is behaving in this environment, especially in details like the grass, where we're able to take advantage of better micro shadowing and textures. And of course, environmental sounds. And we'll skip ahead a little bit here.
Oil and gas plants and nuclear plants.
This
They are
is somewhat
used to protect
improved
human,
body
industrial
language.
plant, and the environment in case of the process going beyond the allowed control margins.
And you can see a great improvement in terms of how the light is falling over the skin of the model itself. Now, the next phase, when we get to module 3, we'll be dealing more with motion capture. And that'll be body language motion, hands and fingers, which will be especially tricky because that resolution is not so common yet, but also facial capture. So we'll have more naturalistic expressions. And I think that's about all I can show you. We have a cement site, which is going to be the most challenging to deal with because it's so extensive. To assist with this, we're going to work with students from local 3D animation colleges to increase and enhance the texturing of the environments, to build out some of the detail, because especially vertically, as you can see in the cyclone apparatus in the background here, it's stories and stories tall. And so this can encompass easily 8 to 10 hours of material. Quincy tells me that you can spend an entire day going through the site. So this is going to be our epic level in terms of the environment that we're creating for education. And the last thing I'll show is our favorite, which is an example of Anya at high quality pre-rendered lip sync and animation. Let's see, and let's try this one.
Hello, thank you for traveling all this way to see our X2 carbon capture device. We're in luck. Today's weather is great. The X2 photobioreactor is designed for commercial scale use at a plant site or even for off-site production of synthetic materials made with CO2 emissions. The materials produced in the reactor are the result of carbonation and are designed for use in the global building industry.
Now here you can see she stepped out of the light a bit. Part of my background is in video production and cinematographic lighting. So I'm a little annoyed that she's in shadow. But you can see around her ears transmission of the light. In her behavior, you can see micro expressions in the eyes, eyebrows, mouth, and tilts of the head, almost conveying a kind of a mood. So this is what we're intending to bring to the live, immersive, interactive experience. And therein ends the presentation. I hope that was not too long for us.
It's never too long, Ken. Yeah, wonderful. It's really cool seeing it all coming to life like that, the progress that you're making. Can you remind me, who is the target audience of this educational program?
We're targeting primarily 24 years of age and upward. People who will be involved in the operation or the selling of the X2 itself, and people who may be particularly interested in the chemical and physical sciences involved with this particular product.
And will that be professional people in organizations or students or?
These will be professional people to begin with. I know that Quincy is thinking of the commercial side, but he's also mentioning being able to have groups of students involved in this because it's very forward-looking technology. It's involved with earth sciences. And of course, the chemical side of it is quite involved as well.
And what would you say your main business model is? Is it actually making that big equipment that we see there, this big box that we see in every environment? Or is it the educational things around it?
Well, that's a question that Quincy should answer most definitely, because this is his business. And I have a particular bias towards education. I know that he's focused on building the business and the patents and the machines themselves, but they need to have customers. They need to have an audience. So we'll give two entirely different answers, but in the end, he has the the final answer on who the audience is going to be, the customer.
All right, let's see if Quincy can show up here next time and give that perspective. Also, just out of curiosity, so interested in it. I think from deep funding perspective, yeah, I like the beneficial nature of this program, carbon capture. So that's a good thing. But for our platform, yeah, all these educational modules and this work in well, a kind of metaverse is very interesting as well. Another reason I was asking it is because yeah, I think you mentioned you do have, especially with all the textures, etc., coming on, that you do have to have quite a good machine to make this work seamlessly, right? So that might not be for everyone, I suppose.
That's a very good question. What we're doing, what we've decided to do, is lead with the HD pipeline because of the finesse it gives us in the environment. But I've also tested a conversion of the geothermal site from HD back to universal render pipeline. And that took a day to do. It was actually quite a simpler process than I expected. So we will be able to support regular laptops and mobile devices and work in the field as well.
Cool. Oh, that's very good to hear. Yeah, I think education might also be a very interesting domain for SingularityNET. First of all, to educate people on AGI, artificial intelligence, and everything around it. To educate people on our own expanding software stack. But maybe also wider, like all the topics that Mindplex is covering, which is everything.
Well, I have to tell you, in 2020, when the pandemic started, pardon me.
Go on.
When the pandemic started, I was very interested and focused on STEM and what virtual worlds could bring to that. So I created a business plan that discussed how we could increase the interactivity and the experience of educational objects. And so now, thanks to SingularityNET and deep funding, I can implement those ideas and try to create a high quality, bespoke, interesting, and immersive form of adaptive education as part of the APIs and contact surfaces of SingularityNET.
Cool. Yeah, we had a meeting the other day with people working on Metaverse 3D from SingularityNET. Alex Peaky also has an interest in the educational part and has some ideas on that as well, also related to Mindplex. And yeah, there's a lot going on. So yeah, from that angle, I would say this is very appropriate for SingularityNET and for deep funding. And looking forward to see how that will evolve and what will come out of it and what we will learn from it, what will work and what will not work, and yeah, how we can combine forces and not just with these people, but also new community members and future collaborators on deep funding. So let's see. Good.
Exactly. I'm hoping to.
Was wonderful and nice eye candy also. So thanks a lot.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else something to add or to ask?
I have a question. So, you know, first of all, it looks very beautiful. I have to say, the environment and the whole project is incredible. Like you achieved very nice details in your objects there. The avatars are looking amazing. If you have this final product, where will be the platform where the customers can find this, and how exactly it's going to work?
Very good question. Excellent question. I'm intending this to be platform agnostic in that the services we're going to build into SingularityNET should be usable on everything from a web page or even text messaging to these very finely developed 3D environments. Because what we would present, what we would deliver out of SingularityNET would be recommendation systems for the next lesson, evaluation of a student's progress, suggestions for what the phrasing would be, and also what the emotion would be. And there are a few ways to approach that I've discovered during game programming. And we'll see during this next milestone which is more academic focus of how we should approach it. See what that will uncover for us. But we intend it to be available to any platform, Unity, Unreal, games, web pages, and what have you. And then it's up to the end user to implement it as they see fit.
I have a question also.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about lip syncing using motion capture system.
Mm-hmm.
And is that something that you need to do for every single animation, or is it something that you can generate data to then produce any possible speech with the correct lip syncing?
This is a very important question, a very tricky one as well, particularly if we consider other languages and dialects and what have you. So to reduce the scope to fit within this particular project, we're focusing on multiple choice answers. So there'll be a set number of phrases along with the usual phrases as that's correct, try again, and so on. So the problem with lip sync is that it's very accomplished to do it as a pre-rendered system. And then you have better lip sync, better nuances, and so on, corners of the lips, how the mouth moves, and you can adjust it. In the early versions of this, we're using amplitude-based lip sync, which is very general. It doesn't always match and tends to look a bit robotic. So my initial notion, since we'll be working with what are called visemes, and those are and phonemes, and those are pretty standard from model to model. Eventually, I'd like to be able to, for lack of a better term, atomize those into segments that could be then rearranged, perhaps like language, some languages, to develop the sentence that we're creating. From there, it gets more complicated because if you have initial pre-rendered animations, then in the future, could you develop a way to crossfade or translate from one of those to subtly alter the arc to more suit any live emotion that's required instead of rendering everything from scratch, which would be a huge job. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. Also because I'm not really aware of what's the state of the art for this kind of things. So I suppose that when it comes to high quality animation, those are always rendered ad hoc for that particular animation from motion capture recording. But then if you want to generate that, it's a bit more complicated.
It is. It's a very complicated field, especially if we bring emotion into it. So we'll start with a very narrow scope of these particular phrases and go from there.
Yeah, I think having the ability to do lip sync in a live fashion would be quite important. If we, with our AI dialogue systems, create interactive systems that speak back to you, yeah, and it would be wonderful. It would really add something if that could be rendered on the spot. And if that is really AI powered, then of course you can't pre-render everything. You never know what the answer will be.
Exactly. Then it becomes a mix somehow between what IBM Watson would deliver and what we do in, say, a Pixar animation. Yeah. So since the visemes are blend shapes, you're essentially changing from one blend shape to another. And that's a much more limited set of expressions, say maybe 12 to 20 mouth shapes tend to cover all of the English language in that case. So if you're able to pre-render it to get a more compact, less CPU intensive way to deliver the animation, and then further alter it in what amplitude-based lip sync might accomplish, then it could be very interesting and a little bit surprising, I would hope.
Yeah, cool. Looking forward to see where that will end up. And yeah, we might be using that stuff ourselves someday. Looks
indeed. Yeah, maybe with the drones as well. Lip sync in the sky.
Thank you all. Let's, for the next presentation, Patrick, I think you also had something to show from Museverse.
Yes, definitely. It will be just a couple of pictures, so it's not going to be any complex videos, but at least you can see where we are heading and what kind of a prototype of design we currently have with the piano project. So I will share the screen. All right, so this is our prototype of the piano. We wanted to do a more futuristic looking expression of the piano as we are getting to build it in the metaverses. We think that we want to recreate musical instruments in a modern way. So we don't want to do the first collection in the classical way. And so we want to target a little bit, bring the future to also to the music industry. So this is the first prototype we have of the piano. So I will go for another picture. We are currently working more to optimize the keyboard. So the design is not fully finished yet, but we are very happy with the design, how we evolved. I can show you the previous screens of, we were starting with a little bit more, let's say, like it was more robust, and we were not happy with this design before. So we decided to do something more curvy, and this is actually a design I very much like. So this is a first start for us that we have this 3D model, and we can start building the technologies top of it. Of course, this is just the design part. I will now stop the sharing, and I can explain where we are in the technical aspect of the project. So we are simultaneously working on multiple layers of the technology. One layer, of course, is this virtual reality piano. Like we have this 3D model. We are going to be rigging it, and we are going to be making it sure that it's played in Unity engine. And simultaneously, we are solving ML model, AI ML model for counting how many keys you have on a keyboard. Because as you can see, like on my here left hand, there's a piano that has I think 88 keys, and over here it has 66. And if you want to play this one is 66, you don't want to just count how many keys you have there, because I think it's going to be big blocker for users of piano. That it's going to be, I don't know how many keys, and I mean it's relatively a lot. And so we want to bring the smoothest to this application, that it's going to be user friendly. So you're gonna just take this VR headset, you're gonna have it on the head, and what we are working on is that there will be a technology in the cameras capturing the image of the piano, and there would be ML model that would count how many keys you have. And if there is this technology that we know the number, then we can have the 3D model bringing in this virtual reality, okay, there is a 66 or there is a 88. And right now we are solving the how exactly we can do the mechanics. We are facing a bit of challenge of that. This is a Quest Pro from Meta, that they are blocking some data for like security reasons. So our biggest challenge right now is that if you make a picture of this piano, you have to send it, or in our first prototype design was that we would send the picture to our backend system, and the ML model would do the counting of the number, and it would send the information back to the VR environment. But the problem is that the security system of Oculus is not allowing at this moment to sending anything out of the VR headset. So we are considering the approach of if we can actually send the ML to Unity, and so it can be internally in the VR headset, and there would not have to be anything send it out. Just we don't have this confirmed yet. We are working with one team in India with that about this problem. So that's one problem we are solving. And but as we are seeing where the whole VR industry is going with, there was announced the Quest Pro, which is much more focused on the augmented reality. We see that there's signals from the industry that we will be able to hopefully access the cameras and actually work with the data that are captured from the environment. But of course, we need to see how this is evolving. We are simultaneously working on the solution of if it's possible to have it counted inside of the VR headset. And simultaneously, we are working on latency. So as we want to make sure that the musical instruments are playable across the countries, as we are now each of us in different country. We are solving how exactly can be the infrastructure of the data, and especially in a matter of latency, and how far we can go without having to have experience, to have it the real-time experience, sort of. We know that the 20 milliseconds is the amount that is considered that it's a real-time interaction, and we are now currently working how far we can go with the latency and how low we can go. We're currently testing server infrastructure that we have in North Carolina, and we have one server in Frankfurt, and we are currently in about 50 milliseconds. We have some idea how to reduce this to hopefully half. We will see if we are in touch with one American company that is solving this latency issues. And so hopefully there's some promise that we might be able to reduce it. And so our goal would be to really have continental musical interaction. But of course, there's certain physics, and everyone has different speed of internet. So we have to be very smart how exactly will be the distribution of the protocols, of the sound, and of the input data. So that's something we work in parallel. The 3D design, the ML model for counting the keys, and the latency. So these are the three main parts we are currently working on.
Wow, those are some hard challenges. Some of them for me are unexpected, like the number of keys. I didn't even know that keyboards had different numbers of keys. But yeah, it's a bit tricky, I can imagine, and you want to make that as seamless as possible. The biggest challenge, I think, is that latency thing. So you actually want to go to a situation where somebody in the US could jam with somebody in Europe or in Asia all at the same time and have a good experience.
Yes, that would be ultimate goal. Of course, I think the continents like America, Europe, Asia in the same time, I think with the infrastructure of the internet is not ready for that. But I believe that the continental jamming could work, at least. That's in my belief. Still need to have it confirmed. Or maybe continents that are close to each other and the connection between them is fast. How we want to approach it is that we would measure the speed of the internet of the individual users, and we would see if in which category they are. So if they are like it's a green, it will be good experience for you that we can guarantee it's gonna be almost lifetime experience. Or if we see that okay, the internet is not so fast of the individual user, then we will say okay, this might be a little bit slow in some time, and we can try to start adding some pre-delays, and maybe in the worst scenarios we can solve it that it's going to be as a sequencer. So as a sequencer, you can actually sync the tempo for all of the users, and then the latency is not issue for anyone.
I was thinking of the same thing, yes, that you can do it at playtime and maybe with a little bit of AI, make sure that everything fits together. But then I was thinking, as a musician, that would be really weird. There was playing, and if I would be hearing the others, then I would also hear my own sound with a little bit of delay. So I think that might be really challenging.
Yeah, it's very tricky, and I was discussing this even with Gem Galaxy, also with Ben, these specific problems, and Ben had the idea of making AI that could predict if there's like some gap of latency that could predict what might have been played. That's what they were solving with Tony from Gym Galaxy, which is very interesting. But of course, the ultimate goal would be really making it work. Of course, it's very challenging. Maybe the best approach would be also if we see that there's a real big challenge, we would start narrowing the location for the users. So I mean, if we see that the continental is still not enough, then we would start narrowing it for like users in a country. And the worst complete scenario, we would start building hubs with 5G internet and do also tests with Starlink if we can get some decent latency. So it's a challenging. We are not worried about challenges, so we will do our best to get smooth experience. The worst, there's always a sequencer approach that you just or you can have like isolation that you can play, you know, let's say one by one, and you can switch, you know, users that everyone is recording something, and you know, that he's gonna wait for the other who is gonna record it. There are certain ways how we can work if the latency is really massive issue. But we are not only project that is solving latency. I think it's in general the whole metaverse industry is facing the same problem. It's something there's I can see that there's enough effort in this problem in general that I believe that, you know, it might not be like perfect at this following months, but it might be better in following years.
Well, it's certainly a challenge worth solving, I think. It will open up a lot of opportunities. And I do think we're in a good position here to be solving it. And what we need is people who know music and who know instruments, and people who know the technical side of things. And then, as you showed before, there's also the design aspect there. Yeah, so I think we are in a good position to start working on that and actually build something that is valuable. If it wouldn't be a challenge, then it wouldn't be fun, and then probably we would have it wouldn't be necessary even for us to work on it. So yeah, at SingularityNET we do like challenges and moonshots.
Well said, well said. No, I agree absolutely. I think there's always needs to bring things further and boil it out if it's really impossible or if it's like something innovative. I think innovation needs to be challenging, and we want to connect musicians across the planet to build virtual bands, and we need to build this critical infrastructure for it. And we can see the big demand of the virtual reality. We can see how much effort and how much investments are into this industry. So I truly believe that it's important to start solving it now and be ready once the adaptation of the virtual reality is going to be further much more global. And so that's why we are solving this.
Yeah, sure. And besides that, it's not just about the end goal. It's also about the journey. It's a little bit of latitude. But what I mean in this case is that while building that vision, in the meantime, you will be building smaller blocks that will be valuable in itself, like the counting app, for instance, and maybe that can be used at some point for other things as well with a little modification or something. So yeah, I think you will discover a lot of things along the way before you reach that end goal, and be able to use other stuff from others during that. Not in the last place, our own deep funding teams, like it has some semblance with capturing lip sync, etc. All right. Anybody else has any questions or remarks?
So, so my let's say I have two questions. So the first one will be, is the internet speed the main bottleneck for achieving lower latency, or we also have some processing to be done before sending the data over to the rest of the virtual band that also contributes to that latency? And the other question is, in that case, would it be helpful to work on MIDI signal instead of audio signal to send over, and then compute the effects, so everything that you want to add on top of that locally on your local machine?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. In regards of the latency, at this moment, the infrastructure is built that we have a backend system in our servers, and of course there's the latency itself. So it's like a signal from point A, point B. That's one challenge thing, which we have now collaboration with company that calls Syntropy, which explained me that if you have a internet connection from point A to point B, its majority of time is not going the fastest way, surprisingly, because it's because of the deals of the broadcasters and of the antennas and of the providers. So it's go like a little bit like zigzag, but this company is allowing to go from point A to point B like the fastest way. So that's of course the one issue, and this is the kind of the solution we are trying to get. Of course, on the way there is some computing internally on the servers, which is also challenging in a matter of optimization to really not waste any millisecond or get as fast as possible, which is kind of a buffer size of like how big of the buffer size you need to have on the servers. So that's of course also a challenge we are doing. Also the challenge of is like, what protocol are you gonna be using for like having the fastest communication? And in regards of the second thing you said, which is wouldn't be better to just send MIDI data? It's actually a very smart approach. Of course, we have been thinking about it as well, that it's MIDI is very light data. It's just kilobytes of and if we see that the audio signal is too big and it's getting too clunky, we might be consider that it would be on the client side, so that you could have download the sounds internally. So you would have it on a VR headset. You would have like database, and you could just send a MIDI, and the MIDI would be processed here, and it would be played like to your basically to your ears. The thing is definitely that if you are going to be swapping the sounds, you will have to download from servers. And in the servers, we have quite complex system of what we want to use as well, some AI kind of sound design tool and so on. So it would be hard to integrate it over here. But I think if we see that our first design is going to be too slow, I think we will be testing exactly the approach you mentioned, just sending the MIDI and having on-client processing.
I think that's very smart and very interesting direction. Yeah, I think this is just one way of what we're thinking about right now. I can imagine even an AI going over it and give the little tweaks that are characteristic for a certain musician to give it even a more natural feel. But sky is the limit.
Absolutely.
We can dream at least and build at the same time. So yeah, impressive, Patrick. Also your technological view on that. Ken, I was calling your name before, but that was Max, obviously. So you have something other to add or to ask?
Yeah, very briefly, in high school, my heroes were in the synth world, like Howard Jones. So, admit to everyone in front of me here. But I was wondering, something that really struck me was the stage presence of the designs that you're creating. So do you have a lineup of designs to manufacture in the virtual world? And secondly, are there advantages or disadvantages to considering other VR headsets like the Pico, which may be less restrictive for development?
Okay, very nice questions. Yes, in the matter of instruments, yes, the goal is really to start recreating more beautiful instruments. I can briefly show here that this is not our first design, but it's like this deep funding proposal, we were doing the piano as a first like the most challenging instrument. But I will share the screen and I will show you more of our designs that we have. So hold on, it's loading. So we also were building marimbas. So as it's much more effective that you can use the VR controllers. So you can just like have a fingers and you can play a marimba. So that's our first design we were solving. So that's another design we had with the marimbas. This is from the top. Yes, and so we started with Museverse on with this instrument, and now we thought, okay, let's bring something more advanced for pianists. And as a piano is, I would say, one of the most common instruments musicians has or play. So we starting with this more advanced approach for piano. And in a roadmap is definitely guitar, as it's also a very popular instrument. But the guitar is very challenging because you have if you have a VR headset on, like the cameras are facing this direction, but like your fingers are like kind of behind the guitar. So that will be quite challenging how exactly to solve this. Definitely, we are also solving drums. So we also have a design of drums, which I would love to show you. If give me a second. Yeah, I can have it actually here. So I will share one more time. This is also the design of the drums. So essentially, you could have a drummer there, and you can see it's also the cyber look of our instrument. And definitely next one will be harp, as I was testing that you could do like some very nice touch with the VR. So harp is definitely going to be as well on the one of the next instrument. And yeah, so that's the instrument part. And then you asked me the second part, which was
but more open source headsets like the Pico.
Oh yeah,
the Quest.
Thanks for reminding. Actually, that's a very good question, because we can see that there's a lot of innovations in the industry, and the Pico 4 is right now actually very impressive. So I'm actually ordering now the Pico, and we want to start testing it. I had very good feedback. I was trying the Pico 3. It was very interesting, but the Pico 4 is something that I have great reviews from. We also will be testing Valve Index, as it's still solid headset, but of course it's getting a little bit older, and there's a lot of innovation in the field. I work pretty closely with Somnium Space Metaverse, which is in the same country as I live, and we are good friends. I visiting their office very often, and they are also building their own VR headset. So I'm also trying to see like how they are thinking about the openness of the VR headset. So we will be testing on their prototypes as well the piano, and see if we can get access to the camera, and if we can actually capture the picture and have it sent to our backend AI ML model system. So yeah, I mean, of course, Meta is currently about 75, maybe 80% of the market. So course, it's a little bit, if we have only cover the 20%, we are not able to gain the majority of the market. So that's why we are starting with Quest, and we will do the Quest Pro. And let's see, it's definitely a challenge, but we see that there is definitely signals in the industry that the AR kind of approach of work with the surrounding around you is something that the companies are considering very much.
If I could end with one more question or two more questions.
Yes, sure.
Firstly, in the metaverse, I'm really tremendously pleased that the keyboards are taking the lead over guitars compared to real life. And the second question, have you considered fretless instruments like cello?
Oh, yeah. I probably didn't understand well the first question. You said, what did you say, leap motion, or what was it? One more time.
It was more of a statement. Keyboards or synthesizers were my passion in high school. But we all know that in bands, the guitar player is the hero. But here in the metaverse now, we set new rules. You're setting new rules, and the keyboard takes the lead over a guitar player.
Of course. No. I'm also a guitar player myself. So, I mean, I have a guitar over there. So what I was testing with guitar is that you can actually take the controller of the VR and you can actually put it to the top of the guitar. And it's sort of like hold, especially in the Oculus, it hold. And so I actually took it to VR and I was able to like manipulate like this. And I was able to see the guitar. Of course, I was not able to see my fingers, but as a majority of guitarists, I don't know if you have that, you don't have to necessarily see everything. I mean, you kind of like have the feeling, and I mean, you don't have to that much work with that. So, of course, it's not the smoothest. I mean, there is a way that you probably could place the camera in front of you, like a leap motion camera that is able to scan the fingers. I think for probably some advanced guitarists, it will be probably something they might be willing to invest. But of course, we want to do as user-friendly as possible, that people would not have to buy hardware gear to be able to play in the metaverse. But of course, guitarists, I mean, I'm also a passionate guitarist, so it'd be nice to have that. And in regards of cello, it's I have a friend in Italy that is actually playing in VR with cello. And how he is doing it is he's actually taking, I will show you for very quick. We actually did a live concert yesterday, like a DJ concert. How he is solving it, it's a little bit clunky, but you can actually take the VR headset like this, and then you can actually play the instrument, and you kind of see the hands. Of course, it's not the smoothest, but I think it's the same approach with the guitar. If you will want to see the fingers, you will place probably camera in front of you that is going to be scanning the hand tracking. And if you have it through just VR, I think the cello might want to capture the things. Right now, they are also developing that you have the cameras also on the headset or the controllers. So I think maybe there will be a way how to capture it also with influence of just the controllers.
Wow. There's so much going on there. I think it just shows that we're still so early days, right? It's developing technology in all different areas. So I can imagine that sometimes it's a little bit hard to make choices for specific technology because you never know what the leading technology will be. Yeah, and the answer to that is to try and stay flexible. So you can adapt to whatever services. But it will be interesting, and I think it will be interesting for quite a while. So a lot of ground to cover there. Yeah, so it's a great domain to be active in, Patrick, because there's so much going on and so much still to be discovered, and the connection between real world and metaverse. And if you're passionate about music like you are, and passionate about metaverses.
Yes, I'm very. And I was very lucky to meet a lot of real interesting people in the industry, and it really helps also to see kind of the background, how they are thinking about the problems and what they think is going to be the direction. And in the matter of metaverses, we can see that there's a lot of decentralized metaverses are focusing on 2D, but I think the virtual reality, that's something that is once you experience that, then you can see that this is the real metaverse, the immersiveness of the metaverse. And I'm happy I can be part of that.
Yeah, I hope that I will be alive to see all that developing to real high resolution, real convincing stuff. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have one. So these were two short presentations with a lot of questions coming afterwards, but I think that's actually the biggest part of the fun, and I hope the community agrees to that, and otherwise please let us know. We also have the luxury of time, since we don't have 20 teams lined up today who want to do their say, so we're just using that time as we have available. But there's one more short presentation. Max Massiliano, from ZRush. And while I was thinking about this, Max, I'm not 100% sure. We had a very long and wonderful presentation from you and Alessandro. Very impressive, but I think it has not been published yet. So maybe, yeah, I'm not sure when this will be published. There's always some post-processing to do, but maybe this will be a little bit of a teaser to the other one, or maybe it will be a little bit of an add-on to the other one. But either way, I would like to point out to everybody who's interested in ZRush and the swarm approach of drones to also watch the longer presentation that we did together. But for now, Max, yeah, please take it away.
Thank you. So let me share the screen. I'm just going to show a short video. So this is showing the let's say rudimental version of the interface. We are for developing the interface. So say the goal here is not only to control the drones, but also having a simulation environment for then moving to real drones, and also having the actual interface that the user will have in front of them when using the real robots. For the interface, we are taking inspiration from video games. So you can see this mini map is the first thing we developed, and this is this takes inspiration from what usual video games look like when dealing with either 2D or 3D environment. But also here we can use the icons to select the drones that we want to move, and then move them in the 3D environment exactly like you would do with a point and click kind of motion. And also you can see that we can gather data. So if you look at the bottom right, you have the camera feed taken from one of the drones at the moment. Of course, we don't have them all rendered on the interface yet, also because it would be very clumsy. And those this data we can use to we can record those data to then use them to test the algorithms that we will have to implement on the real world. So let's say that this is not only the design of our interface, but it's also our simulation environment, our data acquisition environment, where we can gather data, we can check the behavior of the swarm, and we can develop a user-friendly interface that people can interact with in an easy way. So the idea here is that now the world is provided, so the scene is provided, but here the same world will be generated from the 3D mapping coming from real robots when we move to real robots and real camera feed. And so, but everything else will stay the same. So except the world being populated by real data, everything else would still be the same. So you will still be able to control the drones with easy video game-like interface in an intuitive way. And so I actually welcome any suggestion from especially from people working in Unity, Unreal, or game development, 3D environment development. I can stop sharing now actually. And to understand whether this approach makes sense, whether we are going in the right direction, and if you have any suggestion, I'm really curious to hear them.
Ken or Patrick, do you have anything to add?
Try to keep it short.
Two questions. Will part of the control involve being able to see through the drones themselves if they're equipped with the camera? Is there a way to combine the top-down interface with the three-dimensional forward-looking view, and is there any use for that?
So the actually the top-down. So you mean the top-down view from the minimap? That's actually a orthographic rendering of a camera placed on top of the world that can move, and that can you can move that camera, and you can move according to where you click on the minimap. So you can move the other camera based on where you click on the minimap, and this is all done by taking relative positions of the two cameras and then doing some math to get you there to the right spot. I don't know if that answers your question. Or...
It does. I didn't realize there would be what I think is another drone above providing the orthographic view.
I couldn't hear the first part, sorry.
Oh, so you're saying that there's another drone up higher that's providing the orthographic information?
Yeah, exactly. So this was my solution to this problem. I saw that there's people just using static images. I didn't like that for this kind of environment, because we want the environment to be dynamic, because we will be populating that with real data. So I didn't want to have just a static image there. And also I want to be able to move that to zoom. So actually now I didn't show it in this video, but also you can control the zoom of that camera by using control wheel on the minimap, so you can easily zoom in and out, and then you can click to move the main camera to the position where you click on.
And lastly, how about the sensors? Could these be equipped with LiDAR or with temperature sensing for different utility?
So this is actually a very interesting question. Of course, this depends on the hardware that you have when you deploy the thing on the real robot. But yes, so we have this simulation library that supports at the moment supports RGB camera, depth camera, and you also have this segmentation camera that basically you can use if you are testing some segmentation algorithm, or even object detection or object recognition algorithm that So you can immediately gather ground truth data from the 3D environment using this kind of camera. Then, of course, all of that, the library I'm using is totally open source, so it can be extended to have other sensors like you can simulate the thermal camera. I don't really know how this kind of engine work when it comes to simulating temperature. Honestly, I don't know if there's any support for that at all. I don't know, maybe you know better.
I was thinking about temperature sensing cameras, but I was also thinking about mitigating fires. Here in British Columbia, we had some fires recently, and to imagine the drones working in that environment, and they are being used now, they would be dealing with thermals, they'd be dealing with smoke, and of course the heat as well. But it would be invaluable in terms of understanding where the pockets are that need to be attacked. I'm not an expert in this, but trying to imagine how that would be used would be amazing. And on the archaeological side, thinking about LiDAR or ground penetrating radar to be able to detect sites.
Yeah, so I wonder if this is something that can be easily simulated in a physical engine, like now Unreal. I don't know if it can support that, but
that'd be interesting to explore. I might, after this, try to put together something that's, interesting or buried or on fire, so we can offer it up for testing.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea, because I think that you will have to include in the materials, you will have to include something like the thermal capacity, and you have to include the source of heat, and then how those diffuse. So similar to probably to how light model diffuses in the environment, but of course it follows different rules in physics. So yeah,
that sounds like a digital twin based on nature rather than an industrial structure.
And so yeah, the here the path is so it's this. So we as I said, we use this both as a benchmark environment, a testing environment, but also to develop our interface. And our first goal will be to develop this 3D mapping algorithm. And in order to do that, I started doing some data acquisition from the simulated environment, where we have complete knowledge about the environment, so we can simulate and quantitatively evaluate the outcome of the algorithm, the mapping algorithm. And so I think it's a good way to proceed. Also have some experience in doing that in my research laboratory. And yeah, so that's it pretty much. If I'm really open to questions, but more importantly suggestions on how to
yeah, so there's no lack of challenges here either, and I think what's also clear here, just as in the other projects, is that while we're aiming for that high challenge, that ideal, on that road we're making useful building blocks that can be used in our projects, but maybe also in other projects if they're on the platform. So I like that. By the way, this fire example reminded me of another proposal. It didn't make it. It wasn't awarded, or it was not. I'm not sure at what stage it slipped. But there was actually also an initiative to use cameras for detecting fire. So it might be interesting to have a look at. And another use case I was thinking of right now, I know that in some countries in Africa and national parks, drones are actually being used against poachers. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's a use case for having a swarm of drones, but yeah, might be something to figure out, to have a look at.
Yeah, no, that
So-
sounds actually like an interesting use case.
Yeah, yeah, and that's also very beneficial for human beings and for the Earth. So that's a kind of surveillance that would actually be very positive. So yeah, yeah, let's keep our eyes and ears out and be open and flexible on the way to that ideal and see what we can cover and what solutions, what problems we see, and what solutions we can think of that. So it was interesting to see today. Everything was circling around 3D and metaverses, and it was actually kind of coincidental. But that led to a very interesting conversation and very good questions back and forth. So I see that Patrick has already left right now. So it's already quite a long recording. So yeah, I'd like to thank you for your contributions. Anyone last pressing things you want to add? In that case, I'll just stop the recording right now. And yeah, for all the community members, if you have any questions or suggestions, just reach out on the social media channels. And if not directly, I will make sure that the message will reach the right people. So thanks for that. And see you all also on the other side of the camera in 2 weeks, hopefully. Thanks a lot.